We start at the Ambler Theater in historic Ambler, Pennsylvania.
Is that where we are?
Chuck, I came to this theater. I remember I was 8 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And I saw a cartoon show called Magic Boy.
They weren't showing Star Wars The Empire Strikes
No.
Back as they are on August 31st through September 2nd.
That's a long time. 3-day run, see?
Yes, it is.
Look at that. That's
my
me.
goodness.
I recognize you from the doc.
Exactly.
That's right.
My name's Shannon. We've been emailing.
And
But
we're all excited.
it's fun, right? I was wondering, like, would you be okay if I took a photo?
I'd love a photo, only if
Cool.
it's color film.
Okay, I think we could try that.
They'll let almost anybody here.
Oh my goodness.
Hey there, young man.
Keep moving.
Keep it moving. You can park right over there. It's free.
That's good.
Look at that. We're ready. Good.
Now, Todd, do you want me to take video of you taking a picture with Shannon?
Shannon, we're gonna take a picture, and
Okay.
and then we'll come back. How about that?
Sounds like a plan.
Chuck, look what we have here.
Wow, look at
This magic door is open.
This is awesome.
This is the lobby,
Now,
but in this case,
Gotta show folks the historic pictures. That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, this place is amazing. Look at the history that this place has. I mean, very, very cool.
the underside of the marquee.
Yep. Yeah. And now this is unbelievable. This is so cool.
So in here, this is usually not open. That's what she said. So, and some of their machines over the years, they're also from collectors.
Well, you want great past. I mean, look at this. It's such a great display. Really is.
Huh.
Now,
Well,
these projectors are over 100 years old.
I'll bet they still fire up
Could you operate that?
easily.
Wow. All right.
Now, you know they kept these because nitrate film, as you're going to see
Yep.
in the movie,
It was a fire hazard.
was a fire hazard.
And
And
now, they used fire originally, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the arc?
the lamp.
Yeah. Okay.
And it could easily burn up. So the lamp house, and look, you cranked it, see?
This is a hand crank silent projector. Wow. And it says right here, a fully enclosed film path for fire safety. Wow.
Keep you safe. Huh?
Wow. Holmes amplifier. Look at this.
Tube tester.
Organ bellows. Huh. It was originally a silent cinema. That is very cool.
Years ago. And Terry and Greg have come to join us. You're going to learn how to run these.
I prefer the carbon arc projectors.
Those are awesome.
Because we're going to start to run the cartoons with TNT here.
Oh, is it really? Now, 9.5 millimeter projector and film.
Yes, that was a format, I think, from France.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Charles Pathé. Yeah.
And it produced a larger picture.
And there's the Edison kinescope. Look at that.
Introducing. Look, a super scope lens
Yeah. Look at that.
for super panavision.
And this is the arc, right?
There is your. That's what made the light, and it shined off of this mirror
Yep.
through that hole, and then you could open and close the
there.
flap.
Right. And then your film ran through here. Wow. This was originally in the Grove Theater in Willow Grove.
And then they had these have larger reels, so they could turn larger.
Of course, you had your casing at the bottom.
I actually still have an RCA.
Of course you do.
I have one of these, 16 millimeter. So, still got one. I got to keep an eye out for Bob.
16 millimeter. Wow.
So you have the whole feature on one reel.
Right. And then down to the bottom. Yeah.
1996. They never got stereo in the 16 millimeter. Only one movie was released in stereo 16.
Really?
And it was American Graffiti.
Oh, no kidding. I had no idea.
And then they never did it. That was it.
Powers camograph.
The big windows mean you can look through,
Right.
even if they're not open. And then your little 8 millimeter.
Now, did you know that the Super Simplex came from William Jeans in Philadelphia? That's pretty neat.
Don't know who that is. I
Never
should.
went into production.
I would like to see if we could find the Sedgwick.
Did you have
Theater.
one of these old Kodaks?
Yes, I still have an RCA that's almost identical. A Kodak.
surprised.
Almost identical to this. A simpler machine.
Very nice.
I'm curious to see. See, these are more home. That's a home 16 millimeter.
Wow, look at that. And this is that's a Kodascope, right? Yeah.
And look, back then it was cents.
Yeah. Wow.
5 cents.
Look at this.
See, then you had your
Bucks.
tax, your
Yep.
heater charge.
Which was optional, of course.
It should have been. The Love Goddess, playing at the Yorktown.
Wow.
Elkins Park. That's long gone.
Yes, unfortunately it is.
That is long gone.
And did we get a chance to see this beautiful piece?
There's Justin. There you are, young man.
Look at the variety.
He went bankrupt.
Well,
Lost everything. This is a portable projector.
it's semi-portable. Depends on how big you are.
Oh, semi. I think we have some guests waiting. I'm going to go up and get my tickets.
I think it's a fine idea, Todd.
I'm going to get my
to it.
tickets. 16. So we have 11.
We have 11.
We're going to go in.
You have to be quiet because we're about to go into the theater. To film is dead.
And it ends with us.
It does.
Film is dead, and it ends with us.
You know who we are, right, Todd?
It does so.
If you look at the poster, you know who we are.
We're the guilty. Right there.
The guilty.
The guilty.
They better have filmed my good side.
You don't have a good side.
They're one.
Justin's got the front row seat, then I'll show up extra big.
Exactly.
Extra big.
We always show up extra big.
I will sit next to my beautiful wife.
I will sit on the other side of your beautiful wife.
Aha.
So I'm the Oreo cookie with the cream,
You're the cream.
and you're the crust.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it. Looks like we're all spreading out.
We are spreading out.
I like him.
Hi guys, how are you? My name is Shannon. I'm on the programming team here at the nonprofit Ambler. Take a minute before the film starts to thank you guys for. Not only is this a great documentary, it's a documentary that's really near and dear to our heart. It features our lead projectionist, Jesse Crooks. A lot of it was filmed here on the ground at the Ambler. But it also features a late friend of ours, the late Lou DiCrescenzo. For those of you who don't know, Lou is an avid film collector and film historian and preservationist, and the majority of the projection equipment you see outside in this theater or any of our sister theaters are Lou's, as well as most of the posters are from his collection. And you'll see probably some very familiar items on screen that are out here at the Ambler. So for you who don't know, I'd love to invite you to stay for a Q&A after the screening. Jesse Crooks, our lead projectionist, will be down here. He's also in the documentary, like I said. And also we have an avid 16 millimeter film collector who primarily deals in cartoons, I believe, Mr. Todd Tuckey. He's going to join us as well. So without any further ado, please give a round of applause. We do have projectionists up there, but it's a little different. Mostly the computer's running things tonight. But if you'd still like to give a hand to Francesco up there, he's going to make sure everything's running well. Thank you, guys.
Oh, it's punching. We're getting somewhere. I don't think we'll be able to do anything with this thing. This is really stuck. Shame.
Captain Celluloid versus the Film Pirates is an independent homage to the great Republic serials. A group of film collectors and enthusiasts, including Alan Barber, Al Kilgore, Bill Everson, got together with a fellow named Lou McMahon, who had been a cameraman for the Signal Corps during World War II. They had no money. The film was silent. And it was an opportunity for these lovers of film, and specifically lovers of serials, to take a crack at it themselves. And I offered to make a new soundtrack for this film, a fully synchronized soundtrack using the original music that was composed and recorded for the Republic serials. We then had a soundtrack negative struck, but it reflects the reality of what some collectors will do to acquire a film that's on their radar.
In the beginning, as they say, there was just film, and then there were film collectors, and pretty soon there were film pirates to feed the film collectors. Some employee will sneak out a print overnight to be duplicated by a pirate. Even a theater projectionist, lending one reel of a film to a pirate while the rest is being shown in his theater. It's almost impossible to protect a film against pirates.
I've been offered film by thieves that work at different laboratories, projectionists, film collectors that know film collectors that know projectionists. A lot of things get thrown away in the trash cans, and hey, there's not a trash can out there around town that doesn't have a film collector lurking under it.
Piracy, as it is now and as it could be in the future, is a cancer in the belly of the film business. I could give you a list this high of the busts that have been made by the FBI, prosecutions by the U.S. Attorney's Office, and for the first time in the last 6 months or so, and increasingly in the years ahead, they're going to jail.
Now, I didn't deal in 35mm, but my partner at the time did. We went to a show in New Jersey, Cherry Hill, and a woman came up to us and said, "Boy, I really love film." And she bought several 35mm movies from me. One was a James Bond film. And then we never heard from her again. Nothing. Silence. And now, a full year later, we both got the call the same day from the DA. In fact, she, of course, was a secret agent, a spy.
Now, it wasn't just your average, everyday, stay-at-home collector that was dealing in the black market, for lack of a better term. There were celebrity collectors, Roddy McDowell, Rock Hudson, Mel Torme. Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion had legendary film parties. And these folks were just as likely as anyone to go to the black market to find film.
Hefner mostly collected 16 millimeter, but The Godfather had just come out, and he had just set up his 35 millimeter projectors, and he wanted a print of The Godfather to run. So we called a friend who we knew who was rather a thief, and he showed up with a 35 millimeter print of The Godfather with the name of the theater that he'd stolen from, still on the boxes, on the cans, which was a little scary. And we dropped the print off at Hef's mansion, I remember, and about 3 weeks later, I read in Time magazine that there was a screening of The Godfather at Hefner's, and he invited lots of friends, and it was a really great day, and oh my God. They knocked on the door. They said they had a warrant to search the garage, but not to come in the house. We'd already flushed the pot down the toilet at that point, but they never did come in the house. They checked the garage and a storage unit we had that our landlady was kind enough to give them information about. But yeah, it was scary. We were all supposed to get 6 months suspended sentences, and you know, I went down to court that day. I didn't even say goodbye to my wife because I was coming home. And the judge said 6 months and didn't say suspended afterwards. And they hauled me off in handcuffs, which was a surprise.
This is a federal crime. 9 felony counts for the 9 films that they bought. And I was facing 1 year for each count. Oh, I gotta tell you, they tapped my phones. I had a book this thick with all my phone conversations. I said, now let's look in the book. Where do I talk about duplicating films? They were concerned that we were making videotapes. They don't understand film collectors. Film collectors hate videotapes. VHS tapes were the worst. Rotten quality, cut, pan and scan garbage. A true film collector wants film, they don't want tape.
The FBI wanted to make an arrest.
Plead guilty to 1 misdemeanor. 1. Guilty to 1. And there'll be no sentence other than probation. And I remember turning to my lawyer, and apparently I said it loud enough. I said, but I'm not guilty. And the DA, bless his heart, did this. Just like a Three Stooges. And my lawyer said to me, Todd, I've never seen a deal like this. 9 felony counts reduced to 1 misdemeanor. It's a great deal. And I said, guilty, Your Honor.
Now the irony...
So I'm definitely going to let these two kind of run things, but before I do, I think we'll recognize both men from the film. Jesse Crooks is our lead projectionist, and then Todd is an avid film collector as well, and I know he had one of the more riveting segments, I think. I've watched it 5 or 6 times. But I think, just as like a softball question to get things started, I think I'd be interested to know, do you remember the first movie you've ever projected?
Yeah, well, it would have been back in 1969 when I bought my first projector. It was a Movie Mite, and it was $125. I saw the ad in the Inquirer, and I was 13 years old, and I purchased the projector with my own money. And then I started finding cartoons. I still have one cartoon, a Mighty Mouse, and I'm still running at my business. And I bought it all those years ago, and it's beautiful. The print's held up very well. Didn't get the Vinegar syndrome. Some of my people that work with us at TNT Amusements, we got a big collection, and there was a lot of vinegar in it. And we've been throwing the films in the dumpster. These aren't anything special. They were Maverick TV episodes. But once the vinegar is there, it kills it. And the studios have copies of this, so these weren't really rare. But this is what happened with the films. But I will tell you, there was a time when we would get a phone call, and they say, Channel 29 just threw out all the Gilligan's Islands. There's 75 episodes in the dumpster. So somebody would drive down and get the 75 episodes out of the dumpster. They are officially thrown away, so they've been written off. So we didn't regard it as stealing because it was in the dumpster. That's how we got a lot of that stuff. Now, Just the way it was. Dumpster diving, yes. You put it out on the curb, get rid of it, and that's what happened. My brother, who's here, he knew all the films we went through. We used to run them in our basement. We charged $0.25 and ran movies. Every few months we would have a movie night, that sort of thing. That was what we did over the years. Through many projectors. I'm still running 16 millimeter every day on my business. We run cartoons for the kids during the parties. And they always love it because the pictures are bright and clear and they're cartoons they've never seen, because I have a lot of theater prints that were printed in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And they have all the footages now missing or edited out. So nothing bad though.
You know, I was really shocked. Shannon and I, a few years ago, got invited to the Bucks County Children's Museum to do an educational program, and so we ran some 16. We did a hand, it was like a flip book animation activity and like some other stuff. And believe it or not, I put some cartoons together, whatever. The thing that these kids loved, it was a big band soundy of all things. Which was they were basically short, early version of like a music video that these kids that came up from Trenton and had never heard big band music in their lives, every time we ran that one, they all ran back from the museum area into the little classroom area and started dancing. So yeah, there's definitely a lot that can still be done with running film for educational programs for sure. Yeah.
When he said soundies, they were basically songs, 3-minute, 4-minute songs that were filmed. And they were in a jukebox type of projector. It was a big loop, and it would have maybe 20 songs. You put $0.25 in or a dime, and you would see one of the soundies. You never knew which one you'd get. It was whatever was on the reel, and the next one that came up. But there was a list, so if you wanted to, you could put enough quarters in to get to the one you wanted to see eventually. The soundies are still out there, and they were all printed on 16 millimeter. So there's a lot of 16 millimeter still left out there. Anybody have any other questions for Jesse or I?
Hi, and thank you for your time tonight. I got the impression that when you run the films that it's good for them. It sounded like they breathe and everything. Can you wear them out if you run them too much? Like you were saying, Todd, you run your films every day.
No, you can't do it. Mighty Mouse cartoon I have has gotten a little dirty in a few splices, but I've been running it continually since 1969. If you take care of the film, you clean it. And the people that work for me know we clean with lacquer thinner, which is great. And you put it on a cloth, you run the film through it, doesn't hurt anything. And you get a big wad of dirt off of it. I blow the projector apertures out after every reel, and then you clean it with, obviously, a Q-tip, clean the path. So you keep everything clean and running. I'm not perfect, and sometimes you have a mishap where the take-up stops or there's a splice and you don't catch it, and then you have, Linda will remember this, up here we pull the projection room drawer down because it's a stairway that drops down, and a big lump of film lands on top of us. So when the film breaks, that's what happens because our projectors are in a loft. And then I have to go to the process of splicing it if I have to. We try to fix the film without splicing it and then cleaning it and getting it ready for the next show.
So in terms of like running film, one of the very key things is you don't have to run it through a projector, but just rewinding it as acetate or nitrate film degenerates, it off-gases, and the gases build up between the layers of film. And so just the act of rewinding without the potential mechanical damage of running it through a projector will help preserve it for longer. So if you're rewinding the film once a year, that's going to help preserve it, even if you're not running it through a projector. I have heard, Lou being one of the people that told me this, that there's some speculation that I don't know if it's ever been scientifically studied, that heat cycling it by projecting it is also good for it. Film, when it gets old, it becomes brittle. It starts getting what's called base curl, where the clear base starts trying to flex a certain way, And I have been told by Lou, who dealt with this stuff for decades, that he felt that the things that he was running, their physical integrity was better than things that just sat there, because of the it's a flexible plastic. Every time film passes through a projector, it's actually expanding when the heat gets to it, and like breathing, not in the way of, in the sense of off gassing, but it literally as the film gets into the gate, it curls either towards the heat source or away from the heat source, and literally every frame of film that being projected is being heated and flexing, right? So I can understand why that might be a thing. I don't know if anyone's ever formally studied it, but yeah, literally just rewinding it is going to go a long way.
Do you have any other questions?
I will mention too that we have strips now to check for vinegar. You heard what they said about vinegar. Vinegar is like cancer to people. Once the film gets the vinegar syndrome, is what they call it, that's the end. It will be either fast or slow. And I've been selling a lot of film on eBay. I got a collection, oh, you might like this, the collection we purchased from a collector died 21 years ago. And he was buying and selling the films so he could buy film. That's what a collector had to do. That's what I was doing here when I had my little problem with the FBI. By the way, we were the last collectors in America to be prosecuted. That was it. And they'll never do it again. They'll never do it again. But anyway, the AD strips, you put it in the film, close it in an enclosed can, and then leave it for 24 hours. When you take the can lid off, you look at the strip and you see if it's changed color. It starts out as dark blue, and then it goes to dark green, light green, and then dark yellow and bright yellow. When it hits bright yellow, that's stage 5. That is like where you go to the hospice if you have cancer. That's the end. But you can still project the film in most cases. And we've actually been selling on eBay a lot of film that's reached the 5 level, and people will still buy it because they can still get some screenings in before the film will finally look like that film on the screen you saw, where it would run through the projector. But to finish the collection thing, and then we'll move on to the next question, I got a mailing list too. This man was selling films to collectors so he could finance his film collection. And I found my name on the list. There were about 150 people on the list. And right below my name, Todd Tuckey, my old Vary Road address, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, right below my name was Donald Trump. He collected film too. And she told me, oh yes, we used to ship films to Donald Trump in New York because he had a projector collection too.
He has 34 indictments.
Oh, yes. They turned it to 1 misdemeanor.
They'll do that with him too.
I have a question about, you're mostly dealing with prints, and there was a lot about old negative covered. I was curious what the experience today is with the more modern Kodak negative that was produced in like the 1990s.
Kodak solved the vinegar issue by processing the film on something called S-Star. S-Star film stock polyester. And the polyester can never get vinegar because it's not acetate. There is only one place in the world that prints 16 millimeter. It's a little man in Rome. And you can send him a DVD, a Blu-ray, a file on a thumb drive, or a print, and he will transfer that onto 16 millimeter film. If you want Star Wars in your home, you send him the Blu-ray Star Wars print, and for only $1,350 plus return shipping, he will make a 16 millimeter print for you to run on your projector. Or you can just run your $10 DVD, whatever you'd prefer.
Yeah, so as he suggested, so in the 90s they switched from acetate to polyester, and polyester will literally last for hundreds of years. It doesn't break down, it's a lot stronger than acetate, and it is a good long-term archival medium. They also switched to color stocks that last a lot longer, although they still will fade. They just won't fade nearly as bad as the old stuff. But if you have a film that was shot on modern stock in 2000, it will last for, in theory, with the right storage conditions, for centuries.
So at the end of the 90s, they were boasting that their properly stored camera negatives would be lasting at least 150 years.
Oh, longer, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nitrate that's lasted for over 100 years at this point. That's doing pretty well. But yeah, I think I've seen the figure of like 500 years. Polyester will last a very long time, although it can also suffer from issues, especially if it's stored in high humidity environments. You have issues where, especially if it's tightly wound in high humidity, the emulsion will stick to the base on the other side, and like you try to wind it off and it's horrible. But anywhere that's an archive that's storing the stuff, it will last for 500 years.
Polyester has one problem. Estar is it scratches much easier than acetate. You can actually get lines in the film a lot faster than the prints that were made 40, 50 years ago. So that's the only downside to polyester.
And in the first run days, when you had multiplexes that were chaining auditoriums together, where they had the film running from one projector across the room to another projector, polyester was too strong. If they had something where the film got caught up, it could topple projectors over instead of the film breaking, the projectors would break.
Can't tear it. So
Polyester also is, you can't tear it. The only way is to cut it with the scissors. And they used that because it was more durable. So even the worst projectionists in the world could run the film without a problem.
Any other questions?
Jesse, I had a conversation with Lou about a year or so ago about a film about the Philadelphia A's. It was 35 millimeter, but it had shrunken, and he was trying to figure out a way that they could transfer it from 1930s.
Did you email me about that?
I may have.
I think I recommended you to New York Film and Video in Southampton.
No, not to transfer it. I mean, he mentioned that he had gotten it.
Okay, there was someone that had something very similar that I talked to within the last couple of years. I'm sorry, was the question about how to transfer it?
No, about if you knew that Lou had spoken to you about it, whether he could run it.
Sorry,
He wanted to know if you knew of the print and if you knew if Lou could run it.
No, so I mean, anything that is 35 millimeter that is a positive print would run through any 35 millimeter projector. So the projectors we have here in the booth here, they were made around 2010, and they could run a silent era film. The only problem is if it's old enough, it's flammable nitrate, and then our insurers would not like that very much. It would physically run. That was compatible. But I did not hear about that. I as soon as you started talking, someone in the last couple of years ended up talking to me about trying to get a nitrate negative of, I think it was a Philadelphia Athletics film transferred, and I recommended them to that company because one of the guys that works there used to be a partner with one of Lou's friends, the late Charlie Churchman, who had a lab in I'm blanking where, but just outside of Philadelphia, and has since joined that local film digitization. It's not just film digitization, but they're a lab that does film digitization, among other things. But yeah, sorry.
Any other questions?
If you ever want or show any interest, go on eBay and just type into the search window 16 millimeter movie or film, and you'll see tons of films being sold all over the place. It's very popular, and the collectors are still out there. And twice a year in Wildwood, we have this film show that you saw on the screen, the Cinesea. We've moved to a different motel. We're at the Shangri-La in Wildwood. The next show is the first week of October. We do it October and April. And then that's where you can see 8 millimeter, Super 8, 9.5 millimeter, 16 millimeter, and 35 millimeter. And we run a combination of all of them the whole weekend. No 70 millimeter yet. Nobody has a projector that's portable. You saw these projectors out here. They're mammoth. And it's
big setup just for 35?
So I do know someone at the Chicago Film Society that has Century JJ's 3570s in his house. And we did a archival projection workshop, and he brought one of them to one of the University of Chicago campuses as a portable projector to run for that workshop. So some people are crazy enough to bring 70 on the road. They're heavy. We have a couple. They're not on display yet, but we were given 3 Century JJs from the former Boyd Theater in Philadelphia that's now converted into some nonsense. Which I think closed down. It was some sports thing, or but we have 2 of their original. They were originally for single strip Cinerama, 70mm Cinerama projectors, and then one that was a straight up Century JJ that are sitting upstairs that I had the pleasure of carrying out of a basement. So yes, they are heavy. All right. One of these years we'll have one on display in the museum.
Anybody else?
It's not a question, but I'd like your comment. In the past few weeks in Time magazine, they talk about the fact that 50 years from now, half of us walking around will be dead. And who will care for the internet and protect the internet in the future?
The AI, obviously.
So in the movie, when they were talking about the FBI prosecutions, I felt like that kind of made it sound like it would create sort of a culture of being very insular and very kind of tight-knit. I was wondering with the internet now, whether film collectors are able to like kind of get together more and like have maybe a brighter culture now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of collectors. If you go on Facebook, there's collecting 16mm film collector is a Facebook page and it has people from all over the world showing their setups. Right now, in 40 cities in America, people are running 16mm in their backyards or at the park or at the neighborhood or something, and they're still screening films rather than video. I always like the effect that when we run films at my place, the people look up and they see the booth and they see the spinning reels, and they're shocked that we're not running digital, because that's certainly the easy way out. So they see the films running and they see the splices and the scratches too, but they're original and the people like it, and it fits the atmosphere of my place, my party place. So we'll continue running 16mm. I have hundreds of cartoons. I'll never run out. And so far, so good. Anybody else? Oh.
I'm just wondering, what were you charged with by the FBI? Was it similar to the thing they run in the beginning of movies?
Sam and I had a partner. We were selling films. And the film that did it was Michael Keaton's Batman. That was the first movie ever that had special codes printed on the film print. And that's the one they wanted to get in the worst way. And the Batman prints, when the Batman premiered, it was on 5,000 screens. That means there was 5,000 prints. After 3 weeks, it left 500 screens. The 500 prints were returned and went to a warehouse. Then it's on 4,000 screens, 3,500 screens, 3,000. Before you know it, it's nowhere. It's only in 100 screens maybe in America. Well, what happens to the 39 or 4,900 prints? They burn them. They throw them away. They're written off as junk because they can't be used anymore. To make that print today is about $5,000. So if you wanted to strike a print to run on these projectors up here, it's $5,000. Instead, what do they send a digital file now, right?
Primarily, I mean, we still run film, but yeah.
Right, but you run mostly digital.
Yeah, primarily it's a DCP, a digital.
It's a digital disc. So, and that's cheap. So in other words, that doesn't cost $5,000 a print. So you can play it everywhere. But anyway, one of those prints got out. Somebody went instead of going into the dumpster or into they used to have trucks that haul into the dump, the print went into somebody's trunk in Camden. That's where one of the film exchanges was. And that man sold it to my partner for like 150 bucks, and he sold it to this FBI agent for 350 bucks. And that's what did it. They were trying to buy that one print. What they didn't get is the fact that we were copying them and making prints of them. Nobody was copying these films. This woman, this FBI agent, was allegedly a film collector. And I want my Batman. I've been looking for Batman everywhere. When are you going to find me a Batman? Hammering us to buy a Batman. But she wasn't a film collector. But it took 5 months, but Sam turned up a print of Batman and she bought it. Unfortunately, I was rolled into the package because I sold them some films. So she ended up spending $1,350 buying 9 films from me. 13 films. It was 9 films. Cartoon. It was the biggest title was a James Bond. It wasn't Goldfinger. I think it was Dr. No. On 35 millimeter. That was the big expensive one. That was $300. But all the money added up to $1,350. And we didn't hear anything. She disappeared. We were shipping the prints to a hair salon in New Jersey. And her checks had low numbers on the checks. I remember saying to Sam, she's paying with a check and these numbers. This check is like 122. You know, and we questioned and we never heard another word. And then all of a sudden the cat came out, and it was like 2 years later, we got a call from this DI, and that's when I had to hire a lawyer, and they started this case against us. The problem was the films weren't stolen. See, if you break into somebody's house and steal the stereo out of the house and drive away, it's one thing. But these prints were all written off. So when they ran the code of the Batman, one that was printed on the film, there was a code on every reel. And the code said the print was discarded. It was thrown away, it was written off by the studio, that it doesn't exist anymore, but it did. And because of film collectors like this, they found a lot of odd, rare movies that were written off or discarded. Sam and I, unfortunately, we had this big problem on our hands. But almost 3 years went by, nothing happened, and suddenly a month before the 3-year mark, where everything would have passed away, I guess, or disappeared, we got the call, both of us the same day, from the DA that revived the case. And when it finally went to court, the DA realized we weren't these big-time, goofballs. As a matter of fact, they looked in my tax forms, my taxes, income tax. I had declared the film sales for 30 years or so as one of my lines, one of my things. It was part of my, part of our sales. We sell films so we can make money to buy more for our collection. So he wanted the case to go away. He realized that we weren't these big giant mobsters and we're making a fortune or anything. So that's when he did the hand slap, because my lawyer said, you can go ahead, you'll probably be found innocent, but they're going to be pissed that you're making them spend thousands of dollars on a court case that was nothing. So that's why I pleaded guilty. The only good thing about that is I can never be on a jury. So there's a box there. Have you ever been convicted of? Check it off, mail it back, and that's it. So no jury duty ever for me. That's the big advantage. But that's about it.
Can I ask you a question? So when you talk about the codes on the print, is that the dot patterns?
Yes.
Yeah. So erratic. It's been so many. I used to see this in first run movies back in the pre-2012, but it would be a pattern of dots, on kind of seemingly random frames where no one but a projectionist would see it projected, but it was somehow encoded with dots across the image where they could track it.
Yes, that's how they did it. It was then the Batman, and then all the 35 millimeter prints. The 16s never got that done, but all the films after that got that pattern, I guess, in there, and you really can't see it. Now, I know all of you know the Q marks that indicate the changeover reels. Oddly enough, my relative got the patent on the Q mark back in 1915. He was a filmmaker, and he actually patented. Eberhard Schneider is his name. Rob, you remember. And
he used to shoot movies, and he came up with the idea of changing reels seamlessly and actually patented the cue mark that was used right up until the end of 35 millimeter. And it's kind of interesting.
Not the end yet.
100 years. They don't print new prints, except you can get them done. Do you know big collectors still get their prints printed? There's only one Technicolor film lab left in the world that prints what we call dye transfer, 3-strip. And believe it or not, it's in red China. And Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, all the big directors send their negative to China, to red China, to get a Technicolor print struck of their movie that's seen everywhere else, either digitally or back on low-fade Eastman stock, but they wanted a Technicolor print. Only one feature film was struck in 35 millimeter after they ceased production, and that was The Toxic Avenger. That was actually struck in Technicolor, and all the prints that were exhibited at the theaters were, even though the process was abandoned in 75. That was when the last prints were made in Technicolor.
People are still making new films, and we're actually on the 14th of September. We're going to be running a newly struck print of was it Fresh Kill? Right? Fresh Kill. It's when is it from originally?
1994, and the director will be here to talk about the restoration.
Yeah. So we're actually only going to be the second movie theater that's running it. The Brattle in Boston is running it for the first time. They're literally getting it from the lab, and then the director, after the screening that night, is driving here the next morning, and we're going to be running a print that has only been passed through a projector one other time before on the 14th of September. So there are still new film prints being struck, for sure.
Which is good. And will you do changeovers?
Oh yeah, we do 20-minute changeovers here. Yeah.
So you will be using my relative's cue marks.
Yeah. I'll note that, so you said he got it patented in 1915. That's around when feature films became a thing. If you look at some of the projectors in the museum, they date to before feature films existed, and you'd be doing a mixed form of entertainment with magic lantern slides on the same projector as the single reel short subject. And so you'd run a reel, and then you'd shift everything over and run a couple slides while you threaded up the next reel. But yeah, it was all short subjects until probably a little bit before 1915, but that's around when you started having multiple reel films.
It's pretty good stuff. Anybody else have any questions?
I have one more to end on. Every time I watch this, I'm interested that every collector seems to have the goal that the content's important, right? They know that they want to share this film with an audience. They know they want it to be experienced, but there seems to be a divide among some of the collectors over, is the content the most important thing, or is the physical media important to some extent? And I know where Jesse stands on it, and I know where we stand on it, but I would love if you guys could share quickly where you guys stand on it. Do you think the physical film is important, or do you think the content on it is most important?
First off, it's better to have the content preserved in some medium than to not have it at all. And so especially when you have things that are starting to decay, or for some reason may not be projectable, absolutely scan it. If it's the last version of it in the world, it should absolutely be scanned and preserved. But film is still the superior format. You can, the contrast that you can get on 35 millimeter, that is vastly superior to the contrast you can get on digital projectors. With the introduction of laser projectors, it's getting a little bit better, but it's still like watching a digital movie on this screen. It's going to be, a black and white movie's gray and white, not black and white, because the contrast ratio sucks on digital versus film. And then especially when you're talking about like Technicolor and other color formats where, the palette that is recreated with Technicolor cannot be recreated another way, and even if you're reprinting that on film today, you cannot experience it. It's like comparing a gouache painting to an oil painting. Like, they're different mediums, and to be able to appreciate the artistic intent of the piece of art, the way it was originally intended, the way the audience originally saw it, you have to see it the original way. So I am all for digitizing, I'm all for preserving, all for transferring to other formats, but film is still the technically superior format in terms of, things like contrast ratio and color and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I mean, I would always rather see something on film. I don't love scratches. I don't love red shifting. There are lots of things that some people these days, we have a lot of our audience, especially people who come to our horror movies, they're like all about seeing something that's totally red. And I don't get that. That is not for me. But there is also a lot of film that you have to see it the original way, or you cannot appreciate its original, artistic intent.
That's very true. As a collector, I like to touch and handle the film and splice it and clean it and rewind it, and then watch people enjoy it. Nothing's worse than having a film collection that's sitting in the basement and nobody's screening it. And that's why with this film group that meets twice a year is so neat. We vote on the movies that we watch, the feature films. The shorts, we just bring what we have. One of the films that's going to be up in October, one of the collectors has a 35 millimeter beautiful dye transfer Technicolor Disney Song of the South on 6 reels. And he's going to bring that. If it gets voted in, which I'm positive it will outvote all the other films, it'll be put up there for grabs. But if it does get voted in, the film will be remounted on 2 large reels, so there's only one break. So you go from a 20-minute reel to a 60-minute reel. I think Song of the South is only 95 minutes, so it could be 5 reels, but there's nothing that's going to be as nice as seeing that 35 millimeter dye transfer on a beautiful screen that we have there at the motel of all places, but nobody else in the country will see it. Somebody mentioned the Disney too. I sold a movie to Walt Disney Studios. He bought back a 40-minute featurette, 16 millimeter, called Run Appaloosa Run that I watched as a kid, and I loved it very much. A featurette in Technicolor, 16 millimeter, and it had some splices, but Disney won it on eBay. It was $128 plus shipping, and I shipped it to Walt Disney Studios in Hollywood, 5th floor. So they must have been missing that on 16 millimeter. And of course the Technicolor is too expensive to print. So they bought my print from it, and I guess it went up on their shelf. Maybe it'll never get watched, but who knows?
Yeah, the dirty little secret about Disney is that they actually don't have a large portion of their oeuvre. They treated a bunch of their collection with what they called the dip. It was a chemical process that was supposed to preserve the film, and it actually accelerated degeneration. And so huge swaths of their back catalog, they do not have positive prints anymore because they've all succumbed to Vinegar syndrome, because the treatment they applied with the hope of preserving it actually destroyed it. So actually Lou DiCrescenzo also lent them portions of Fantasia because they had the original negatives, right? The color separation negatives for Technicolor, but they didn't have a reference positive in order to be able to mix the colors correctly and recreate the original intent of the filmmakers at that time. So he had to lend them a portion of Fantasia so they could use their negatives to redo it, to remaster it. He did that back when they were redoing it for DVD. But with Disney, their positive prints are largely destroyed. And so when a few years ago, when we gave Library of Congress most of the rest of Lou's collection, there were Disney prints that they were thrilled to have because they're otherwise basically gone. Even though they had all the money in the world, because they made that mistake with their preservation strategy, their stuff, even though it was sitting in a vault and climate controlled and blah, 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 it's gone.
I will end with telling you, I actually store my films not in cans. They're out in the open and they get air all around them. So the vinegar, my films just don't turn vinegar. But the films we get in from other collectors have, because they've been in tight cans that you saw on the screen. Tight cans are bad news. So now the collectors drill holes in the cans. They keep the film in the can, but they have holes in them. Or a shipping case is fine. Those steel shipping cases you saw, air gets in them, so the air will filter around. But a tight film can is deadly for film.
Yeah, the remaining stuff that we save for, so when we decided what to give to the Library of Congress and what to keep, basically I triaged it and was like, will we actually have a chance to run it? So I kept a bunch of trailers and short subjects and only one feature for training. Everything else went to them, but everything we still have is all in archival cans, and archival cans are vented. They have vents in them to allow the off-gassing and allow air exchange, and again, prevent the buildup of the nasty gases that accelerate. It's a chemical chain reaction once vinegar syndrome starts. So.
I will just say, when I got this collection, before we got rid of all, there was 1,000 reels in the collection. There were so many vinegar ones, and everybody thought we were making salads there, I'll tell you. So poor Linda would come in every day and get this boff of said, we're getting rid of them. So we were throwing them in the dumpster. And I really hated to throw them in there, but they weren't usable. And the studios did have, one was a Clint Eastwood TV show. We had a stack of them, and I can't remember, Western, I can't remember the name of it. Rawhide. We threw a ton of rawhides away, but they were gone. They were starting to curl, that you saw. They probably wouldn't run through the projector, and they already have masters of them. So there was I wasn't hurting anything, just loading up my dumpster. But we've pretty much gotten the vinegar smell gone, haven't we, Linda? And my brother Rob, he works there too, and he goes through the rewinds. He knows how to take the pictures for eBay. We're always listing movies on eBay to sell, so it's good stuff.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
For coming. If you guys like 35 millimeter and want to see more things on 35 millimeter, check our website. We do them about once a month, but every April we do have a whole weekend of 35 millimeter film. A lot of it's from Lou's collection. We play short films and trailers and stuff like that. And then we also get a mix of new prints. We played a Love Witch print last year, which was for 2016, but we also do some archival prints from UCLA, from the Eastman House and stuff like that. And if you keep an eye at our other theaters, we're also showing Bare Knees, which was the silent restored in this film. You saw Lou kind of tearing up. It was the one that he bought for $169 at the Golden Nugget Flea Market. The Library of Congress restored that, and there's a digital file of it. So we're able to play it now at the County Theater, and we're going to do that with live accompaniment this September. I highly recommend you come to it. It's really a great film that we wouldn't see otherwise.
Yeah, it's absolutely delightful, and I'm sorry you didn't see it here when we ran it on 35 a couple years
35
ago.
print.
Yeah, beautifully struck. The Library of Congress has a film. They can only do black and white, but they have a film out, and their lab work these days is phenomenal. So yeah, it's always great when we can show their work. But their restoration's wonderful. It's a delightful movie. I believe is Ben playing?
Ben Modell.
Yeah, Ben Modell is playing for that one. He's a great silent film accompanist. And also stay tuned. In April, we're going to be doing our 35 millimeter film festival here again, where for a weekend it's all 35, and yeah.
Great. Thank you guys. Thank you both for staying with us, and thanks everybody for sticking around and asking questions. Have a good one.
It's over. It's done.
It's over, Janet.
Now I'm going to wait, stand by my telephone.
You know what?
Get the phone call.
I remember that
I'll
doll.
be famous.
I did too.
I'll take the risk.
That was great.
Great.
It was. Commercials. It was stuff
Thank
I didn't
you.
even know.
Look at how many people showed up. Oh. Kidding.
There were at least a couple.
Oh.
Todd, you did a fabulous job on the Q&A. It was great. It was wonderful. It was informative. And
did you learn something about me you didn't know before?
Yeah, you look awful fat under these lights.
Oh. And that I'm a little crazy, just a little tiny bit crazy?
Exactly.
This way crazy or this way crazy?
Both. Say goodnight, Todd.
Good night.
Good night. Now get out!
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you.